Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Cassie Villela and I'm a realtor, property manager, and investor here in the San Antonio, Texas area. On my channel, we talk about all things real estate, from market updates and data and investing to home and garden stuff. So if that's your cup of tea, then like, subscribe, all that. So what we're going to talk about today is basically how and why to be an ethical, caring landlord. So I know this is kind of a strange video. I make a lot of videos about landlording in general and investing and things like that. And I watch a lot of those and listen to a lot of podcasts and things about landlording. And this stuff is stuff that I haven't really seen anywhere, like taught. It's stuff that I've just experienced. And I think that it's important to bring attention to this issue. I think that everybody's seen the hashtag, rent is theft, and it's definitely part of the zeitgeist now to complain about landlords and raising rent and things like that. And I think that leads to, not that it's new, I think this is through the ages, there is sort of a conflict relationship between landlords and tenants. And I'm here to say, I don't think that needs to exist. I don't think it needs to be a conflict relationship. I think that it can start out well. I think it can continue well. And throughout the whole relationship with your tenant, you can have one of mutual respect, honesty, and empathy. And that's what I want to talk about today. I know I've already lost some of you investors, and that's okay. But the reason you should listen to this, if you're somebody who is not attracted to, empathy and compassion and kindness, then maybe the word profit speaks to you. What I'm going to talk about is going to lead to higher profits. Believe it or not. The number one thing that you lose money in as a landlord, the number one thing, if you tracked it over time, the thing that kills your ROI the most is vacancy. Repairs are going to happen. Some would say repairs can possibly cost you money too, but vacancy is the one that if you have, vacancy is the one you can control the most. Okay. If you are a good landlord, then you are going to have lower vacancy. If you are a bad landlord, if you treat your tenants poorly, you're going to have a high vacancy. All of the rent hikes or pet fees or things in the world is not going to make up for having a lot of vacancy. So if for no other reason other than just selfish, I want my ROI to be higher, then I would say, please listen to these tips. I hope I've convinced you. So yeah, we're working towards a collaborative relationship with your tenant. So number one is changing your mindset. So like I said, a lot of investors and even property managers, it's kind of this, all tenants are lying, or, we gotta babysit tenants, or they're always gonna be dramatic or things like that. The language I hear when people talk about their tenants is usually pretty negative. And it makes sense because as a property manager, if I manage 30 properties in a year, I might have one negative experience, but that's probably the story I'm going to tell at, an investor meetup or something, right? When I'm with buddies, I'm going to tell this negative story because it stands out, other than, 29 people, paid their rent on time and didn't destroy the house every month. That's not much of a story, right? So we kind of have this inclination to filter out just negative stories about tenants. And I want you to change that mindset. I want you to think of tenants as your customers, because as a landlord, you are providing both a product and a service. That is why you are getting paid. That is, this passive income that you're making every month. You're earning it by providing a product and service. The product is obviously the home or apartment or condo, whatever. And then the service is taking care of that property, taking care of that tenant. If you provide a bad product, so if your house is, dirty, or you're not fixing things, or, all of the different things you can do to make a property better. If you are not doing those, then you're not putting a good product out to the marketplace. And so your vacancy is going to be higher because it's going to take longer to find a good tenant for a crappy product. It's just how it is. If you put a crappy product out there, you're probably going to get crappy tenants, because the good, high quality tenants are going to go for a good, high quality home. That's just how it's going to be. And so if you want good tenants, provide a good product. If only because of higher profits, but also it's just the right thing to do. If you're going to have a place where somebody's going to live, that place should be somewhere. Like, my thing that I always say is, I refuse to own a property that I would not move into tomorrow. So if I'm looking at my properties and there's a problem, I just think about, is that a problem that would keep me from living in this home? And if it is, I fix it. Even if it's not technically, if it's like paint or something that's not that big of a deal, if I wouldn't live in it, I'm not gonna have somebody else live in it. And so that's how I would urge you to think about your product. Then also, you're providing that service. So you're providing the service of a functional home, and that you maintain and repair when appropriate. And so you need to think about your service from a customer service standpoint. If you were the tenant, how would you want reporting a repair to be? Would you want it to be like, I make a phone call and then it's fixed and I don't have to worry about it? Or would you want it to be like, I text them, the landlord refuses to do anything, I text them more, I have to call them? You would not want that for yourself. So do not inflict that upon your tenants. Provide a good service. So when I have tenants, whether it's in my property management business or my personal rentals, when I have tenants, I use text because it's just easier for me. But when my tenants text me, like, there's a problem, I am so sorry to hear that. Like, here the problem that's most common is my HVAC or my AC is not working. So my immediate thing is, I'm so sorry. Here are a few things you can try while you're waiting for the AC guy. That it might be these simple fixes. If it's not that, he's going to be there as soon as possible. I am so sorry that you are having to be hot today, for this afternoon until he gets there. Is there anything I can do? Last week we had like this really bizarre problem where like the HVAC part we needed was going to take a week to get there. And we didn't want the tenant to be hot for a week. And so we were able to put some like window units in and just have them there for the few days while she waited on that part. Now, technically, I don't have to do that. Technically, by law, I have some days to get that done. Like, I don't need to provide that for her, but it's the right thing to do, right? I want her to stay. She's a good tenant. And so that whole thing, which could have been a very stressful problem, was not that big a deal. We handled it. She was happy. She cooperated. Like, it was just a collaborative partnership that we were working together. So that's what I would encourage you. When you're thinking about how am I taking care of my tenants, collaborate with them, work with them. Oh, I have some notes here. So I put in here, be respectful, don't act like a college dorm RA. Like, you are not the tenant's parent, or some people are really overbearing. Like, I have unfortunately experienced sometimes landlords or like other investors that just, they scare tenants away by being just really overbearing. And so I've even seen, I know multiple people who go through lots and lots of tenants because even just talking with the landlord about the rules scares the good tenants away, right? Because if you're overbearing from the beginning, a good tenant is going to be like, this guy's crazy, and leave, go somewhere else where they're going to be treated well. Yes, pets can do a lot of damage, and you might have a pet policy, and you might be worried about that. But if you are overbearing and like asking way too many questions about the pet and changing your mind and jacking up the rent and all this stuff about this pet, eventually the really good tenants could be like, it's just a freaking dog. Like, we'll just go somewhere else. You know what I mean? So be understanding, be respectful. You know, the majority of tenants are good people who just pay their rent on time and they're just trying to get through life like us. So just respect them like that. I don't know how to put it any other way. The second thing, so that all was treat tenants like customers. The second thing I would encourage you to do is have empathy for your tenants. So empathy is like, I always say, if we had more empathy in the world, so many problems would go away. And I think that if you have empathy with your tenants, like I said, with the repairs, saying, you know, I don't want you to be hot here. Let me do what I can to help your situation. Genuinely feeling like, you know, I know that this is frustrating to have a contractor in your house. Thank you for putting up with that. Whatever it is, just being grateful and thankful and showing that empathy and kindness goes a long, long way. Sometimes, you know, it's good to have policies. I'm going to actually talk about policies next, and policies are really important. But sometimes it's also good to have empathy for somebody. In COVID, you know, we all needed a lot of empathy over the past couple of years. And so we had tenants, I had tenants that I lowered their rents because they were really good tenants, and one of them lost a job. And I said, you know what, let's just lower the rent. It's fine. We'll make it. That way you guys can stay and we'll figure it out later. And that was helpful. They were able to stay, they got back on their feet, and it was perfect. It ended up, there was no bad blood, nothing. Like, it was perfect. I've had a tenant that said, you know, I don't get paid until the 3rd. So can my rent be paid every month on the 3rd instead of the 1st? Because my primary source of income is disability, and that's paid on the 3rd. So I said, yeah, sure. Like, what is it? It doesn't matter to me whether it's the 1st or the 3rd. If it matters that much, 2 days of getting paid, like, you probably don't have enough savings account dedicated to your rentals, because a 2-day delay should not matter. But that's an aside. But I basically, that was 3 years ago. She's still in the house. She's my favorite tenant. She is great, communicates well, has never paid late, like, no problems. But I know investors who would have been like, nope, the lease says the 1st, so I'm gonna fee you if you're not on time, you know, and would have scared her away. So that's just, you know, treat your customers well, have empathy. And then the last is to give fair policies and explanations. So have a policy manual or standard operating procedure, or at the very least, like, your minimum tenant requirements for when you're selecting tenants. That way you don't get in trouble with fair housing laws and stuff. Like, you need to be able to prove, like, the way I select a tenant does not have anything to do with race, religion, color, age, anything. You need to be able to prove that it's another set of qualifications. And then you also need to explain these policies to your tenants. So, like, something I like to do is, if I have to raise the rent, which I really try not to do, but like this year, San Antonio raised the property taxes by a lot, like a ridiculous amount. I made another video on it, but they raised the property taxes so much that I did have to raise the rent some. And I sent the letter to my tenant. I said, hey, here's what it was last year. Here's how much it went up, just so you can see that, like, this expense did go up. That's the reason I'm raising it. You know, obviously, like, I don't want to. So I like to provide explanations, or any kind of policy I have. If there's an explanation, I provide it, because your tenants are adults. If you can tell them, like, this is why we do things this way, even if they disagree, at least they know why. And I always think that over communication is better than under communication. And just keeping your tenants in the loop, and again, just providing that really good product and service for them is going to go so far. And so it's my goal to influence, I guess, other investors and landlords to be better, to treat their tenants better, to change the whole conversation about this landlord-tenant relationship, because I don't think it's healthy for anybody to be in this toxic conflict relationship. I don't think it's healthy for anybody. And I think we should do what we can to be better. That's my spiel If you're still here, thank you for staying till the end. Remember, please do like, subscribe, go on like other things, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of those places. I'm there, and let's talk.